The Pats, man, like, I mean, you see the Bill O'Brien stuff where it's like, oh, he's coming in to fix things. Like, it's
the
probably
savior.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know if you've been watching a lot of Alabama this year, and I'm telling you, Bama fans are like packing his bags for him.
Right.
Like, it's not one of those situations where it's like, oh man, we gotta lock in Bill O'Brien. We can't let him go back to the Pats. We can't do that. It's like, no, we'd rather get Jason Candle in here from Toledo. Like,
that's
that's
just
what we want.
Alabama, though. That's the process. So you go to Alabama, you get your. So, but the one thing I'm really curious about, since you've covered the Pats for so long, obviously we know they're the dynasty. They're the greatest team of all time, the greatest coach of all time, the greatest quarterback of all time, and I say that as a giant 49ers fan. Looking at the team where they are now, you know, I feel like you've almost forgot how much money they spend in free agency. Like, remember all of us being like, oh my God, look at all the money they spent. Like, look at all the help that they gave this team. And it's like, is this a bump in the road or is this something more? Like, are we maybe looking at the end of it all unraveling and the end of Belichick, he retires? Or, like, can they recover from where they're at?
Well, I feel like there's a pattern now of the last 3 seasons where, you know, Cam Newton comes in, they're fine. Like, they're a middle-of-the-road team. Last year, they make the playoffs, but still, they're a pretty middle-of-the-road team. I don't think anyone thought last year when they made the playoffs that they would advance past the first round or get very far. And now there's this year where, once again, like, even if they win out and make the playoffs, there's no chance that they're going to win in the first round or advance to the Super Bowl or do anything. So now this is 3 seasons in a row, and it's the 3 seasons where they haven't had Tom Brady. And their playoff win drought even extends back to 2019 as well, when Tom Brady was here, and they lost to the Titans in the first round of the playoffs. So, I mean, I think that there is an out to this. I think that they can get back to being a contending team. But I don't know if it's next year. I do think, like, you know, we can all make the jokes about Bill O'Brien, and they're fair, but like you just need someone competent to make this offense decent next year, I feel like, because they were good. They were good enough last year. I think they were like top 10 in EPA per play, and this year they're, you know, bottom 5. So if Bill O'Brien comes in, it's pretty easy to make things better on offense, and I can actually even foresee a situation where, like, he comes in, they're top 15, top 10, whatever it is. And then, like, maybe he gets an opportunity somewhere else. Maybe he becomes a college head coach or an NFL head coach, or, you know, does something else. So I almost feel like to fix the offense, they need to bring in 2 guys. They not only need to bring in Bill O'Brien, but they need to bring in someone as the quarterback's coach as well, because, like, I don't know, if you see a coach on paper turn one of the worst offenses in the NFL into a competent one, then that guy's going to get a lot of credit for that, right? So I know that Bill O'Brien isn't the most highly regarded coach out there, but I could see a team giving him a second chance as a head coach if he can pull things together in New England.
I'm curious because it feels to me like the one thing I'll throw, because I think Belichick deserves a lot of blame for the current state of affairs, this year especially, with this hiring and just how he's allocated his resources, drafting receivers, how he prepared for post-Brady. I think he deserves his comeuppance there. But where I will say that, like, the Spurs are going through the exact same thing in the NFL, or in the NBA, where, like, they have been pillaged for a decade. You just go up and down the list where it's just so many front office guys, so many coaches just being taken away. Like, there's just so much loss because other organizations have picked and taken the Zieglers of the world, the Robinsons of the world, the Brian Floreses, the Josh McDaniels, that, like, I'm not surprised that it finally added up to where it's like Belichick's looking around because he's not an outside the box hire where he likes to keep his guys, that, like, he's now down to nothing. Like, he's down to none of his main lieutenants. They were just all gone.
But it even goes to Ernie Adams was like his timeout sort of analytics guru up in the coach's booth. He retires. Dante Scarnecchia, the offensive line coach for the last 50 years, whatever it is, he retires. Ivan Fears, the running backs coach for the last 30 years, he retires. Nick Caserio, who was helping out Josh McDaniels on offense, like doing some of the personnel things, doing some of the timeout things, substitution, he moves on to the Texans. So, like, I don't think, it's certainly excusable for the Patriots to have fallen off a little bit, but I also think that either you needed a better plan behind those guys, because it wasn't a mystery that at some point Josh McDaniels was going to leave, or like you just said, you need to make an outside the box hire. You have to make an out of organization hire. That's not, two guys who ran a defense and special teams before who don't know what they're doing on offense. And that was part of the problem this offseason is that, okay, so Josh McDaniels leaves for Las Vegas. And he brings over like most of the Patriots offensive coaching staff. Bo Hardigree, their quarterbacks coach, was an assistant quarterbacks coach last year. Mick Lombardi, the Raiders offensive coordinator, was a wide receivers coach. Carmen Brasillo, the offensive line coach, was the offensive line coach. And at least in Brasillo's case, he still had a year left on his contract with the Patriots, and the Patriots allowed him to leave. And I mean, if Matt Patricia wasn't trying to be the offensive line coach and the offensive play caller right now, something that no one else in the NFL is doing, I think his life would be a little bit easier, right? Like, at least the offensive line would still be in good shape. So that's where I still blame Bill, where it's like, even though he lost a lot of guys, you still have to question his method for replacing them.
That's the thing that I kind of look at where I'm like, you look at Mike Tomlin post his 2 Super Bowl wins, right? And he held that ship together and still has really for a long time. After Bill Walsh, obviously there was George Seifert and there was a plan, right? And there was, there was like a breakdown of what to do next. And I don't know that you can really ever take down Bill Belichick to the pegs that we might be discussing, but like, you got to look at kind of what's happening here and being like, well, that's a pretty big, that's a notch. And however you want to level it out, like on top of all the coaching things, it's like, yeah, he lost all these coaches, but Oakland's terrible too. So, I mean, whatever. My big thing is like, it's still going to come down to Mac Jones. Because is that guy is he going to lead you out of, maybe some moves you have to make as a coaching staff, or obviously trying to figure out who's your offensive coordinator to get to be. Right. Like maybe they could bring somebody else, one of the towel guys in to do it or something like.
Yeah, I mean the Mac Jones situation. I don't have an answer to it, unfortunately, because I don't think anyone really does. Because Mac Jones was pretty good as a rookie in 2021. Like he was the best rookie.